Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our SalesFuel and BIA Advisory Services 2021 Digital Events Series for this month. Our topic is real estate. Welcome to all of you. I'm Audrey Strong, the Vice President of Communications at SalesFuel, and I'm your host today. Our panel consists of Celine Mathieson. She's the Vice President of Insights and Analytics for BIA Advisory Services, and Celie Smith, SalesFuel's President and CEO. And we've got SalesFuel's Client Success Manager, Adam Ambro, running our slides and portal. Thank you so much, Adam, for helping us today. So today's discussion will be on the real estate vertical ad forecast for this year, the market trends in the second half of 2021 projections, digital selling strategies you can utilize in this vertical, the sub-vertical analysis of real estate developers and home builders and realtors. And we will have a digital handout as we have every month with all kinds of factoids and more data for you at the end of this. Next month, we're going to do back to school and office clothing as our topic. Quick housekeeping to be mindful of. If you are having technical issues at the moment, please email webinars@bia.com for tech help. As for questions, type your questions in as you have them. Questions not answered today live, we will answer post-webinar to you, so go ahead and put them in. And as I said, for attending, you'll all receive that local digital resource document full of data and insights into the verticals for today. And watch your inboxes tomorrow. That's when we'll be sending everyone the links to the recording, the slide deck, and the handout. We have a short survey at the end of this webinar. We'd like your feedback on how we did, so please take a moment and fill it out. And I'd like to turn things over now to Celine Mathieson. Celine.
Thanks, Audrey. Can I have the next slide so we can dig right in? So yeah, here's the news. I'm sure you guys have heard this. Real estate market, for now at least, is still very strong. And I'm sure we've all seen the stories, right? The post-COVID economy and millennials entering their peak home buying years are fueling a residential housing boom. So low mortgage rates, combined with an increase in working from home thanks to COVID, have spurred a surge in housing demand, particularly in low density suburbs. In 2020, for just FYI, a random fact, more existing homes were sold than in any other year since 2006. So houses are selling for insane amounts of over asking. I can tell you from experience, mine went for $30,000 over asking just 2 months ago. The housing market has inventories down over 38% year over year, and the current supply of homes on the market is an all-time low. Due to the lack of supply and decreasing interest rates and borrowing costs, home prices have continued to rise in double digits. With the recovering economy, more buyers are entering the market, and because there is still a limited supply of housing inventory, home prices could climb even more due to the, as long as the low interest rates continue to go. So this is not leaving anytime soon. Next slide. So real estate just overall has an integral role in the U.S. economy. Residential real estate provides the greatest source of wealth and savings for many Americans. And it's also a source of revenue for millions. And so like what I'm showing you on this chart shows you how that revenue trickles in. So it contributes 3.8 trillion or 18% to the GDP. So what you see down there in the circles are the behaviors of the housing market and the economy. The behaviors of the housing market often mirror the economy, which allow one to boost the other when needed. And so this breakout is from the National Association of Realtors and shows how real estate industry impacts a local state economy. This is the average for the US for all states. So for a state, this is where how the real estate market impacts. Expenditures related to home purchase would include advertising on that, income generated from real estate industries. Advertising is built into all of this. It's things like, what a home buyer or home seller like myself would put into purchasing, trees and updates and all that. So just an interesting way to look at it and look at its impact in the local market. Next slide. There's definitely challenges for home builders for new homes and, single family housing starts. Those are the new homes being built according to the census, dropped more than 13% in April, compared to March, the previous month. And home builders are actually slowing production. They're handcuffed by skyrocketing commodity prices for lumber and other things, and shortages of land and skilled labor, which is also impacting them. Nearly half of all builders say they're adding escalation clauses. An escalation clause is if a building materials increase by a certain percentage, for example, the customer would be responsible for paying the higher cost. So they're putting those escalation cost clauses into their sale prices due to the rising costs of materials and the lack of, land and skilled labor. The NAHB estimates that the increase in lumber alone has added, on average, $36,000 to the price of a single-family home for building a new one. And materials are up 12% in cost, according to the National Association of Home Builders also. So slide 6. However, real estate ads are everywhere. Okay. Freddie Mac expect home sales to reach 7.1 million in 2021. And even with higher prices, the housing market is going to remain strong, according to Freddie Mac, in 2022 due to very tight inventories. And so realtors need to be out there and they need to stay current. They need to be, advertising and putting out their home sellers and looking for the home buyers and being available for that. So inventory, the most, according to our forecast, is marketed a lot more with direct mail, social media, radio, and TV, blogs, news sites, and out of home. And I'll show you more on that as we dig into it. So on the next slide. When we look at BIA's advertising forecast for the real estate industry, which includes, if you look on the bottom there, real estate development and realtors, which we'll get into in a little bit, 3.79 billion was our early estimate this year. Our upcoming forecast, which should be out in another week or two, we're projecting another 200 million in ad spend in this vertical, getting it even closer to 4 billion. And if you look at the pie on the right shows you the breakout of what that means. If you look really closely, online has 40% share. It's the largest share of the ad pie. Mobile's got a second, and then out of home. However, as we get into this and we look at real estate development and realtors, we'll be able to look specifically at how traditional plays into this. And traditional still is a very strong channel for realtors and real estate development. Next slide. Okay, so we're going to first talk about real estate developers and home builders. BI's definition in our forecast, we focus only on builders of new homes or multifamily homes on land that is owned or controlled by the builder. So it does not include home buyers or investors. Just to clear that definition up, and people on the call that are Advantage users, that definition is up at the top on the verticals when you log in. And you can also run this alert, what you're seeing visually on here. BI Advantage clients can run this local alert report in the platform and download it as a slide or as an image to use. So we're estimating in 2021, 1.3 billion in local advertising will be spent by real estate development. Online, as we noticed from the last forecast for the total super vertical, online will get 38% or 491 million. And then on the right here, you have the top other four with the largest share. No surprise there, mobile is in there. For online, which has the largest, that's going to be made up of mostly of search and display, which we'll get into later. For traditional channels, out of homes on here, direct mail, what's not on here? TV, sorry, TV's on here too, TV broadcasts. What's not on here? Newspapers have 6%, so they're probably the next one after direct mail. And then radio is at 2% share. So there is still a big mix of traditional on it. Just, the share of those ad dollars are not as large as the digital. Next slide. And that what you can see, this is one of those categories where digital has taken over more than 50% of an advertiser's budget, and has been that way and is going to continue to go that way. So there's a 10.3% compound annual growth in the next 5 years for digital ad spend. And so that's going to continue. So that's something to remember. Next slide. So when you look at that digital spend on here, the 884.6 million, we see that again, that online, which is search and display, and mobile, they're going to be the largest spend. But the biggest growth comes from some of the smaller spend channels. Email, 19% growth from 20 to 21 in ad spend. OTT, 17% growth from 20 to 21 in advertising spend. Radio and magazines online, also 17% growth. So don't discount some of those other digital channels. They might have a smaller share, but they're growing the fastest year to year. And if we go to the next slide, you can see that. So we said that email, look on here, email only has 5.7% of that 884. However, we said that it's growing 19% from 20 to 21, right? It's not a huge spend, but it's growing. So we also see on here that other display, if we look at product, other display on here, which is really display ads and search, have the largest share of spend. Real estate developers and builders, they want to stay in front of their audiences, and they tend to be early adopters of digital products. And with COVID, things like virtual staging, tours, social media tours and reach outs, video are becoming increasingly important and will continue, and you'll see those ad dollars. We'll see some more product breakouts in the near future from there. And, again, video on here, just to give some definitions, classified verticals are going to be sites where there's homes listed, your listing, leasing sites. Other displays display. Video display is pre, mid, post roll video anywhere. So it could be on social media, could be on YouTube, could be on a Realtor's homepage. And then search, again, search is always very important because they want to be out there looking for, buyers in the market browsing. So we're going to continue to see that through 2025. Okay, next slide. And I'll turn it over to Lee.
All right, thank you, Celine. Let's talk about how we're going to actually tap into some of that money and how we're going to bring that into us. This gives you a little context about where we're at. It's like if you look at January 2006, the orange bar, that was the start of the housing housing bubble, if you will. So if you notice then, if you take a look at January 2020, you'll see then what's happened then with the pandemic and how we've shot skyward since then. So in a way, it's a continuation of the trend that was already happening, except it's just accelerated. And if you take a look at the housing market index, whatever, it's way up there. I mean, hundreds of points higher than it was this time last year. So that it just goes to show about the heat of the market for sure. But the number of single-family housing starts that these builders are building, it's up there, but it still doesn't seem to be enough then to quench the demand for inventory. Next slide. So here's some of the trends for 2021 that we're dealing with. Building material costs have soared 26.1% on average over the last 12 months. Fortunately, we've just gotten word that the price of lumber now is starting to head downward, so hopefully that continues. Builders are challenged by a labor shortage of construction workers, and that's one of the things we're going to talk about. I'm going to talk a lot today about shortages of inventory and just shortages in general. And so the shortage then that home builders are facing is with labor. And so that presents an opportunity to us as media sellers. 1 in 4 builders can now sell a new home in less than 30 days. The outer suburbs of larger metro areas have become increasingly popular for new single-family home builds because that's where the land is, that's where the developments are. It's also a little bit cheaper the farther out you go. Green building practices are now becoming increasingly incorporated in new home construction. This is what's being marketed and what really should be marketed then by home builders going forward. Next slide, please. So the digital audience for house shoppers, that's where we're going to focus. House shoppers are 48% more likely to say that a business should have at least 15 recent reviews in order to influence their decision. This according to our latest audience scan study that we do every single year. This is the 11th. And so it's not just good enough to have a few reviews here and there. It's really important then that the builder has a lot of different reviews, preferably positive reviews, then to actually sway the decision of shoppers. Next slide. Now, when selling to home builders, here's some things to keep in mind from the AdMall Local Account Intelligence Report for home builders. The average home builder spends between 0.7 and 1.5% of total revenue on advertising and marketing. And even large builders, those with $1 million+ ad budgets, are way more likely to use mass media such as the TV, the radio, out of home, but they still allocate around 50% to digital, as Celine was mentioning. So a good question to ask for discovery is approximately 50% of builders focus on generating leads through inbound practices. What source generates most of your leads? And 29% of builders says it takes less than 12 prospects on average to generate one sale. Another 15% says it takes less than 20 prospects to generate one sale. So what you have here is you have some stats for math, so that if you can generate 12 leads, that equals one sale. What's one sale worth to the builder? And so then compare that then to the cost of the advertising, and that's how you can generate a return on investment argument very, very quickly. Next slide. So sell recruitment ads to help builders win the competition for skilled construction workers. So if they tell you, it's like, we don't have the inventory, or, oh, these things are selling like hotcakes, I don't need to advertise with you, and like that. Well, here's something that they do need to advertise. They need to advertise all of the benefits, the signing bonuses, whatever that they're doing then to be able to attract construction workers, because that's how they're going to continue building the houses to be able to sell them in the future. Expand their use of video to show model homes, explain the home building process and the builder's capabilities, and of course those testimonials. Recommended new content marketing strategies to keep the buyers and prospects who are waiting for their new home to be finished, to keep them engaged. And of course, since we're talking about the outer suburbs, feature the city and the suburb names prominently in your SEO keywords. Let's go on to the next subtopic. Nope, let's not do that. Let's ask some questions, Audrey.
Somebody would like to know from either one of you what the breakout is of the social media spend out of the total spend. Do we have that number, or is that something we can get and send to her later?
That's something we can possibly get and send to her later. The social media is going to be built into that stack chart that I showed you with the product. So you can assume that not all of that amount is just on desktop, mobile, searching and display. There's going to be that video number in there is going to be the classified is going to be in there too. So you think about Facebook Marketplace, people post homes on Facebook Marketplace all the time, and like Nextdoor would be an example of that too. But that's something I can look into, and I'll get back on it. We try not to break out social. Just because that's, when your advertisers buy, they don't say, I'm only going to buy on social, right? So it's usually part of a product package that includes other places other than social for their digital ads. So yeah.
Got it. Lee, somebody's asking, how have the large builders impacted the smaller home builders as a trend?
Well, I mean, certainly we are seeing the market dominated by the larger home builders, and so there are certainly more of them. They have the capability then to be able to attract, recruit, if you will, more of the construction workers. So it certainly puts a squeeze on the little guys, just as it always has. The little guys are at a disadvantage, but also take a look at, again, what are the things that the little guys do well? They can adapt quicker. They can turn on a dime. They're willing to do some unconventional things. And so if you have some unique and different advertising and marketing ideas and like that, you might find that the smaller ones, just because they're in the heat of the battle with the larger builders, might be more receptive and to give that a shot.
Last question says, I'm having a hard time converting realtors from newspaper ads over to digital. Any specific ideas for this quandary?
I think that's a situation where each of the media do things well. So it's like, when you say newspaper, you can also take a look at the other print media as well, magazines, for example, direct mail, for example. So it's a matter of taking a look at what digital does well and what's missing from their marketing campaign, from their marketing mix. And that's where you go after it. So it's not necessarily I'm going to. It's what you want to be careful of is don't provide the diagnosis. Don't provide the prescription before you do the diagnosis. So it's like, maybe the budget shouldn't come from newspaper. Maybe the budget should come from somewhere else, depending on where parts of the marketing campaign has fallen short. So take a look at what digital does well and what digital can add to the marketing campaign, and what needs to happen to the marketing campaign. And then take a look at some of the other areas. It might be newspaper, it might be something else then that's not performing just as well, or does it need to be an increase in the budget?
I love all the questions we're getting. We have one more question, then we'll move on, guys. How is the home buyer boom affecting the multifamily apartment industry? That's an interesting question.
So yeah, I mean, I can say from experience because so I sold my home and I moved down to do a rental, right? And I had another friend that actually moved from Portland down the DFW area. We both had a challenge finding rentals.
Hmm.
Rentals are just as crazy, and they're going quickly. Like I would see things asked to book to go look at it, and by the time we got there for our appointment, it had already been signed and leased.
Yeah, it's the
And
same situation, the
yeah,
level of competitiveness. Then for the rentals, I have friends of mine, Celine, that done the same thing where they got a tremendous offer out of the blue for their house, well above market value or whatever. So they went ahead and sold it, then thinking, oh, it would be easy for us just to get an apartment somewhere for a few months or something like that. Nope, not quite so easy. So, there's your answer. So it's fueling a lot of competition and a lot of tightness in the apartment market as well.
well, and I know we're going to talk about realtors next, but I can speak
Yep.
from experience. Realtor, a lot of realtors are focusing on leasing also now more than they usually do because they're not having enough inventory on the home seller side.
Hmm.
So they're making up for it and they're focusing more on filling those apartment needs, which could also be generating that too because they need to generate revenue somehow. And so they do get a percentage when they do leasing. Not as big as when they buy and sell a home, but it's still part of their kit bag and how they make revenue. So yeah.
Well, that's a perfect note to move ahead, Adam, on the slides and move over to realtors. So cleared for takeoff.
Yeah. Yeah, let's talk about realtors. Yeah, so realtors, our definition for BIA is they're agents or brokers that sell real estate for others, buy real estate for others, and renting real estate for others. So it's buy, sell, and renting. And our realtors is very broad. So it's what you think of realtors. That's what it is. So next slide. And they're not slowing down on their advertising. 2.5 billion in 2021, and online again, almost 41 million or 41%, sorry, or 1 billion. I mean, almost half, it's getting close to half of that. And then the top 5 again, we see mobile in there, a little different mix. So no TV in here in the top share, out of home, direct mail, and then there's that print newspaper. So maybe that's, they have a large share. They like using print newspaper. There's a great advantage to putting listings in there in their face and all that, for sure. What's not on here that's still grabbing share, broadcast is at 4% and radio is at 2% share for realtors. So next slide. Again, there's that digital presence and that 10% growth for digital from 21 to 25. And you're going to see, so, I'm sure Lee will talk about it too, balancing that challenge with using the traditional and optimizing the traditional and their digital. Next slide. So again, online and mobile. Online is search and display. It could be on social. It could be on could be on social. It could be on desktop. That could be your Google searches. And mobile are the top 2 shares. But again, the biggest growth comes from smaller spend channels. Email 20%, OTT 18%. This is from 20 to 21, and radio online is 17% growth. So while online and mobile will continue to have this large share through 2025, don't discount other digital channels that are growing the fastest where realtors are investing more money from their advertising budget. Next slide. So then when we look by product, there you go again, other display, which is display ads, search, you see those big ones. There's that email, again, small amount, but it's growing more. Classified verticals is going to be like your Zillow websites where you're looking at listings and connecting with a realtor. So you're going to see that. Realtors want to stay in front of their in-market audiences. And so again, they're early adopters also, and COVID has had an impact on it. Facebook Live open houses, speaking of social, Instagram stories, virtual tours, organizing Q&As, and creating engaging in education videos, creative videos on YouTube. Microsites for house listings, especially if it's a unique house. I know my realtor, she's fabulous on social media. She did a Facebook Live, not of my house, but one of our other listings, and walked through it and just quickly, hit the top points about the value, how important the house is and the value in the house and special features. So there's all sorts of ways to do that. They also are using a lot more AI automation, and I've seen that also, and that's more of like that classified verticals where you go on the site and you say, I'm interested in this house. I'd like to connect and book an appointment, and that connects you with a realtor or with the lister for that house. Because I was moving out of town, that was really helpful for me to be able to do that and to be able to set all that stuff up ahead of time, and it was all through AI. So realtors are embracing technology more. They're also looking at analytics more, and I think getting back to that question about how do I convert newspaper advertisers over to digital, is the analytics. I think, that's another area where they're really interested in understanding the analytics, understanding the performance, understanding their audiences better. And that's where those smaller groups of products that they're investing more in but aren't a big enough share, like OTT and like radio online, will come in. Email too. Email is highly targeted. So you're going to see that in the future. And with that, I'll turn it over to Lee.
Okay. So as we previously mentioned, here's what's driving this whole thing is mortgage rates right now. And so this is how mortgage rates are projected to look in 2022, and that's why the housing market is projected to be strong. The only threat right now to mortgage rates is inflation, and we're at a period now where we're seeing lots of inflation for multiple reasons, and I won't get political about it, and I'm also not a financial analyst, so it's like I've got to know my limitations there. But I think that from this chart and from these predictions, where that you can expect then the market for real estate agents then to be particularly strong and challenging for you as a media seller. Next slide. Also something else that I should point out real quick is that I'm going to refer to this group, and you should too, as real estate agents. A realtor is a member of the National Association of Realtors, and they tend to get a little bit, put off, I suppose, because not all real estate agents are realtors, but all realtors are real estate agents. So that you have to be a member. There's a code of ethics that you have to subscribe to. So be very careful about how you use those terms and not use them interchangeably. So millennials now represent the largest segment of home buyers in the U.S. Only 11% are willing to buy a fixer-upper now. So that they're looking for something they can move into now. Traditional agents are facing more competition from virtual agents and iBuyers such as Redfin, Open Doors, Zillow. So these are the folks then that will actually buy the house. I mean, right? So that there's no need for that transaction. Speaking of the transaction, because it's like these things are moving so quickly, then 8% of all home sales are now managed by a for sale by owner basis in 2020. Celine mentioned the virtual tours, and that's going to continue to be popular with agents post-COVID. It really shot up and accelerated during COVID, but it's something then because of the efficiency of it, but also because of the amount of speed that's needed then to have buyers compete with each other to be able to buy a house in before someone else snatches it up. Virtual tours might be the way to go to be able to get the house seen quicker. Only 35% of Americans consider real estate agents to be credible in what they say and do. So this is something that's very important as well. The advertising and marketing that you propose then has to also go to building the credibility of the real estate agent, because 2/3 of people are automatically going to assume that whatever a real estate agent says, I can't really believe it, I can't trust that. So part of what you want to be doing is be doing some brand building, if you will, to build up their credibility within the marketplace. Next slide. So we're going to focus on home sellers, not home buyers. So again, we're speaking to the shortages in inventory. In this case, the inventory not being labor, it's being houses. So what has to happen is that a great opportunity for you, might be then not only helping with the credibility of the real estate agent, but also then helping them acquire more inventory that they can turn around and sell quickly. So sellers of their primary home are 3 times as likely to check a company's blog to evaluate their expertise and subject knowledge. So if your real estate agents or agencies are not blogging regularly, it's something they really should be doing. Next slide. So some of the keys to selling to real estate agents is to help their agents win the competition for inventory. So it's all about putting the agent out there, some stats about how quickly they can turn around houses and for what percentage over market value, for example, are they able to sell it for, and all of the, maybe the ways in which they make the whole process turnkey. The top criteria for sellers when selecting an agent are these. Number one is reputation. So that gets into reputation management. They're looking for someone who's honest and trustworthy. There's a credibility factor. Is this person a friend or a family member? That's number three. And also, but then finally, what's number 4 you would think would be a little higher, agent's knowledge of the neighborhood. Suggest content marketing and reputation management strategies and services for agents targeting sellers. Emphasize social media content and ads. So 20% of all real estate agents get 1 to 5% of their business from social media. 10% of all real estate agents get between 6 and 10% of all their business from social media. And also consider Google ads, because right now only 24% of real estate agents are using these for prospecting. So you want to promote the agent, want to get more inventory. There's a couple of unique and different ways to be able to attack the market. Next slide. And Audrey, over to you.
Okay, so we have a question about this for realtors or agents, as you said. Any opinion or information on local magazine buys?
Yes, we do have it, and I will email it after.
Okay.
We have magazines. We cover magazines and magazines online, and I have the local number for this.
Okay, great. Celine, where does let's see, question here, Zillow, Realtor.com, we talked a little bit about those, but where does that factor in your realtor data when you're compiling it?
So that's going to be, well, that's going to be in the class. It's the classifieds, because it's their lead driving sites. So they drive leads to the realtor, real estate agents. So that's where you're going to see that number, unless they pay for, something bigger, but we usually just, that's where it is, in the thing. So it's not going to be in search display. It'll be in the classified.
That leads me to a point that they had forgotten to mention. A few months ago, we did one of these series on automotive. And one of the challenges that the auto dealers were facing is competition then from people that did not want to deal with auto dealers. Same kind of credibility issues. They'd much rather go in and do everything through an app and actually buy and sell everything through an app. And so these iBuying platforms, if you will, pose a similar threat then to the real estate agent, where they may never actually get to talk to a buyer, because they want to do everything all online through an app to avoid having to deal with that agent.
Interesting. Lee, this one has to be for you. What percentage of realtors are perceived to be credible, and how can they improve their standing with potential clients? I know you did a credibility survey and you have a book about this.
Yeah, so my book is Sales Cred: How Buyers Qualify Sellers. And with that, then we did a study called The State of American Credibility, where we surveyed well over 1,000 Americans, adult Americans, and we gave them a long list of various professions, if you will, and we asked it, do you perceive people in this profession to be credible in what they say and do? And we described what credibility is, went into some detail on that. As I mentioned, real estate agents top all salespeople at 35%. Then you have most salespeople around 24, 25%. The lowest on that, of course, is going to be the automotive dealers. Only members of Congress rank lower than automotive dealers, but again, real estate agents 35%, much higher than that, but nowhere near some of the top numbers like nurses, doctors, people like that. And the other thing too is that local is more credible than national. So certainly a local realtor is going to be more credible than anything that a national chain, for example, would say. But yeah, the answer to that question is 35%. And there are little things that salespeople say and do every day that give away their credibility. So it's not just it's not really as simple as building up your personal brand and getting that out there. It's every transaction, every interaction that you have with a buyer or a seller every single day is what increases or decreases your credibility with that buyer or seller.
We've got more questions and we have time to answer them, so let's keep going. When doing email targeting for realtors, besides area and income level, what other criteria do you both suggest using?
Audrey, I didn't catch the second part of that question.
Oh, when doing email targeting for realtors, besides area and income level, what other criteria should you suggest using to select your target audience for email blasts for realtors? Can you guys hear me?
Yes, I'm actually going to say I don't know the answer to that question because this is not an area which I've got to advise people on. So I'm going to punt. Celine, you have anything?
Yeah, I was gonna say email marketing. It depends what other categories are there, but I would think lifestyle, especially if their lifestyle is going to be a good area. Depending on your segmentation, who they're hitting up. If they're hitting up renters, definitely it's always age is going to be big. And income is going to be a big area for that. But don't forget, I'm like a middle-aged woman and I'm running. So it could be thinking about other segments or thinking in those two. It could be there could be other segments depending on that. I think it just depends on who they're trying to hit and what their goal is.
Yeah, Celine, I was remiss in how I should have answered the question is that you have lists for first-time home buyers, so that's a segment. Right. You have people that are in apartments right now though that tend to start a family. They're a prospect. You have people that are existing houses and are looking to downsize. They're a prospect. So all of these things then are available as lists then for you to email market to.
Yep. Right. And then when you're looking at just like to jump off of email, that's again where like the smaller, you have things for search, but like OTT and, radio will provide you different, those different segments where that you can add to their audience or add to their target audience based off of different segments. And that's where you can bridge that over into traditional and into the newer digital channels for advertising.
And a great place to look for that segmentation is Audience Scan. If you're an AdMall subscriber, take a look at the Audience Scan data. There's tons of data there for various home buying segments and home sellers as well in there and will give you greater detail about where they're at digitally, what do they use traditionally, hobbies and the like.
Someone attending sent a suggestion you might want to parse it out by renters or older homes. Home age, that could, what year built kind of thing. More questions. Do you have any info on solo postcard marketing, either of you? And is that something you can pull and send later? Postcard mailings.
We don't break out our direct mail specifically by the type of product and that. Got it. I can, but let me tell you that person that I'll reach out to that person because I do have a lot of information on the different direct mail products from another perspective. So whoever that is, expect an email from me.
Yeah, we send all the questions among the team, everyone. So we see your question and we can answer you privately. So what states are seeing the most and the least real estate sales currently?
That's a great question. I know that Lee, you probably have some of this too, but I know that New Jersey, I think the National Home Builders had just like a factoid that there's one place in New Jersey, one town in New Jersey that has the highest sale price so far for a home and has the highest sales in the US. But state-wise, I don't know offhand.
Would you believe Utah?
Oh,
yeah. So you have Utah as number one. South Dakota, Montana are next as far as the hottest real estate states, if you will, in the United States.
Next question. Do you think you can appeal to both buyers and sellers in an ad, or should you focus on one or the other in your pitch?
Well, I think that you should. I think you should focus your campaign on one or the other because you're going to have a different message for sellers than you are for buyers. So I think you treat them separately, but there's no reason why you can't go at them both at the same time with the same pitch.
Has the recent Facebook targeting changes affected the effectiveness of Facebook ads for real estate agents? You heard anything about that, either of you?
I have not heard anything from any of the real estate agents that we work with on that particular thing. I know it's something that we all have a watchful eye on.
Excellent.
Yeah, we haven't heard anything either.
Okay. Oh, Donald Canali. Hi, Donald. He says, is it Oakland, New Jersey, Celine? He wants to know if it's what specific city, if you happen to remember in your research preparation for this.
No, it wasn't Oakland. I can't remember what it is. I'm gonna have to go look it up.
We'll have to look it
But
up for you.
I remember reading it.
Okay, well, that's all the questions. We're going to move forward on to the next slide, Adam, Mr. Ambro. Okay, so as a thank you for attending today's webinar and every webinar in our digital series, we provide this resource for you of the vertical analysis, data and insights. It's updated each month, so plan on attending each month. And, you know, our series continues this year. July, we're going to do back to school and office clothing. August is going to be on insurance and mortgages verticals. And before you all take off, we're going to do a poll right now. Adam, I want your opinion. What do you want us to cover in September? We have not decided yet what vertical, what it will be. We want you to tell us. Here's the poll question. Take a few seconds and answer. It will really help us tailor our content to what you're most interested in. If you don't see an option that you want, go ahead and type that into the chat. We'll take a look at that later. But dentists and optometrists, QSR restaurants, auto, travel and tourism. And I kind of said it's like a Christmas in July, holiday retail, so you can really plan ahead for, you know, Black Friday and moving into the back end of Q4.
And it's interesting we paired dentists and optometrists together because I always wondered how come your teeth and your eyes required separate insurance from your medical insurance. I never understood that, but oh well.
That's a good question.
That is true. Like what?
Yeah.
Yeah. Adam, do we have enough votes? We want to go ahead and show the results or give it a few more seconds?
Give it a little more time.
Okay. Yeah.
When you asked me to launch the poll, I thought you were asking me personally what we wanted to do in September. I was like, wow, that's a lot of power.
You get one vote, Adam.
You get one vote. A statistically not valid sample of one.
Yeah, so on the restaurants, the QSRs, that's your fast food stuff. We're also going to be focusing some on franchises if that one gets selected. So
Oh, and if you guys, if you don't like our options, because you know we argue over these and we have to like come up with 5.
Yeah.
We do.
Go ahead and just pop what you want in the chat. So if you pop it in the chat, if you vote for one, but say put in the chat to Audrey and all of us, hey, we'd rather see.
Yeah, if you don't like what you see, tell us what you want. And
how about the pet market and veterinarians? You know, it's like, why isn't that there? Everyone has a pet. So it's like, these are some of the conversations that we have before you guys can come online to the webinar. So.
Okay, let's see the results, Adam. Let's see what we got. Oh, wow. Holiday retail. All right.
Sweet.
Well, there it is. Thank you for your votes. That's very helpful to all of us. So let's move ahead, Adam. And Celine, go ahead and talk about Advantage.
Oh yeah, so all the numbers that you saw today in the handout that Audrey talked about comes from BIA's Advantage. That's our dashboard. We have ad spend, those pie charts that you saw that I talked about, and all the digital. We have that for every market in the US. And we update it quarterly. We have a new forecast numbers coming out in the next week or two. We also push out a lot of analysis on Advantage. And if you want to learn more, there's links in here and links in the deck for it.
Awesome. And if you like the research that we presented today with SalesFuel, you can get it 24/7 with AdMall. I know that Lee referenced Audience Scan. That is part of AdMall. Go to admall.com for more information, and we're happy to show you a demo and show you around. If you're looking to improve your salespeople in just 2 minutes a day, get CoachFeed. This is brand new SaaS platform from us. It's sales micro coaching through Slack or email. We have a free trial at coachfeed.com. So please head over there and look at that as well. And if you're starting to hire back more salespeople, you're expanding and reopening further, consider a demo of SalesFuel Hire. Root out the toxic sales troublemakers. Only hire the rainmakers using SalesFuel Hire. So now we've got our webinar survey. When we close things out, if you have questions, feel free to reach out to me or Celine over at BIA. We appreciate you attending. We hope to see you guys for the back half of the year and have a superb afternoon. Do our little survey to help us out and have the good rest of the week. Thanks, everybody.